Hey y'all, I'm Shauna. Welcome in or welcome back. Today we are talking all about no-buys, and I'm going to be answering the question, or maybe helping you gather some information to ask the question, is a no-buy right for you? And to be honest, a no-buy isn't right for everybody. The conscious consumption world can make it feel like a no-buy is the gold standard, or that's the thing that you have to do to become a conscious consumer or change how you shop. I disagree. And if I had the knowledge back in 2020 that I currently have now, I wouldn't have gone on a no buy and I would have pursued an alternative path that focuses primarily on habits and also contentment. I don't regret my choice because it led me here and I, of course, learned some things. But I think that there are certain people who will do better on no buys than others. So today I'm going to share my opinion on who I think would do well in a no-buy, the people/circumstances I think could benefit from a no-buy, and then I'm also going to share some of the situations and circumstances that I think might not do so well. I do think that there are circumstances where going on a no-buy can be detrimental, meaning that I think it could lead to a shopping spiral or spending more than you intended. The goal of this video truly isn't me to be some gatekeeper for no buys or being the arbiter really of who should go on a no buy. No, the goal of this video is really to give you some things to consider before making your choice on whether to go on a no buy or not. So let's get into it. Let's start off with the positives who I think could do really well in a no buy. And the number one reason I would suggest somebody going on a no buy is if they have debt, specifically credit card debt. Cutting down your expenses will go a long way to helping you pay off your credit card debt, and a no buy can absolutely help with that. And I do think that when you're on a no buy year, motivation should be your last resort. Like, it shouldn't be the thing that propels you. And as far as motivations go, paying down debt is a super great one. And it can really help you. I want to even say like bootstrap it. I feel like if someone's going to bootstrap a no buy, it's going to be somebody who's paying down debt, because seeing those numbers get smaller can be very motivating to help you, cut down your expenses and not buy the stuff. And I also think that there are ways to manufacture motivation within your no buy when you're on debt that are very strong. Let's say you're somebody who likes coffee, right? And you want to buy coffee every morning. Every time you don't, maybe you put that amount of your coffee into a debt payment or like into a savings account that you would make your debt payment from. Maybe you check in with your finances every week or every few days, so you always have those things top of mind. As far as like creating motivation, those are some things that would work really well with somebody who is paying down debt. When it comes to like larger debts, like mortgages or potentially car loans, those debts, as long as you're making your minimum payments, they don't typically get bigger. And credit card debt is not that way. If you use your credit card, you could just be increasing your debt. So, not using your cards is paramount. Yes, you could do that by, living cash only. Like, that is of course an option, but being on a no buy also helps you eliminate the need for the credit card, or not eliminate it, but reduces it and helps you kind of get there faster, I think. No buys are also meant to be temporary. Most people would do them for a year at the most. Some people, like my friend Lara, they do it for more than a year, but generally they're a short-term solution. So is paying down credit card debt. Even if it takes you 2 to 3 years to pay off your credit card bills or your credit card debt, if you go on a no-buy for one of those years or all 3 of those years, it's short-term and it helps you kind of see the finish line. I can get off my no-buy when I finish my debt payment, and that could be super motivating too. Also, I feel like I should clarify, when I'm saying no-buy in this context or almost any context, I'm typically referring to a year-long no-buy, and if I am speaking of any other term, I'll specify that in this video. So number 2, the other situation I think somebody could achieve great success on a no-buy is somebody who has who already has knowledge about their spending, who has some decent habits down too. Look, here's the thing. If you want to go on a no-buy, I would want you to have success. Like, I would want you to crush that thing. I would want you to learn about yourself, of course, but I would want it to ultimately be a positive experience. And I wouldn't want you to go on a no-buy, break it, feel like a failure, feel like garbage, and then be like, this sucked, or I never want to go on it again. Or maybe you feel some type of way about yourself. And no-buys are tough for a lot of people because they're like the marathon and not the sprint. They are tough because we don't have experience not shopping, and they can also be tough because of failure. Those are, I feel like, the two kind of main reasons why I think they can be difficult. So if you're somebody who doesn't have experience saying no, or somebody who doesn't really have experience with following rules, like rigid rules as in like a budget, I think it's going to be tough all of a sudden to just follow one. And so in my opinion, if you want to succeed on a no-buy year, you're going to have to do some work beforehand. I think that'll set you up to have the highest chance of success. I think a really great, temperature check to see if you could succeed would be this one question. Can you wait 5 days before purchasing something you really want on a consistent basis? For me personally, consistent would be like 8 out of 10 times, like 80% of the time. If you struggle waiting 5 days, majority of the time, 50 to 60% or more of the time, you will likely struggle on a no-buy. And that struggle can lead to the spiral spending and the overspending, which can kind of play mental tricks on you. So I think that would be a really great place to be like, yes, I feel like I could do this. Then I feel like a no-buy, I think you could have a high chance of success. I think getting some knowledge and habits down, also great before you go on a no-buy. Some knowledge that you might want to have. When are you most likely to shop? Where are you most likely to shop? Can you differentiate between wants and needs? Do you use shopping as a coping mechanism? Why do you impulse buy? Or like, what are your main reasons for impulse buying as well? We're going to talk more about shopping spirals later, so we'll kind of get more into that. I watch no-buy videos even till this day, and what I often don't hear people saying is, how do I give myself the best chance of success for completing my no-buy? People tend to feel like the quicker they can go on the no-buy, the better. As in, like, if I acknowledge today on January 1st, I have a shopping problem, you need to go on a no-buy January 2nd. I think part of the reason why this happens is because people want to feel like they're doing something about it. And the sooner they go on it, the sooner they can have the change. And I also think that there's some like mental components, as in like, I'm doing something about it. I'm making steps to making a change. And so we feel good because we've made a choice and we're on that path. However, there truly may be benefits to waiting, to learning and doing some stuff first, going on a no-buy later down the line. And this leads me to number 3, the last case that I think a no-buy would be beneficial for. The role, I guess, would be to go on a short-term no-buy to do some learning. Short-term, I mean 30 days, a month kind of max. Not shopping for 1 month will be a really excellent teacher, and it will help you learn about your shopping habits and triggers, but in a condensed format. It's short enough that you'll likely be able to wait out buying stuff till the end, and the maximum amount of time you're going to have to wait is going to be 31 days. We typically have the highest amount of motivation at the beginning of a project, so you could probably do really well or have the easiest time within the first 1 to 7 days. After that, things start getting more difficult if they are going to get difficult. And when will, depend on the person. So by the time motivation wanes, you're waiting 20, 25 days, which is an easier task, an easier ask than waiting 300 days or 365 days. Listen, y'all, 2 months of the year, the first 2 months won't even get you 60 days into the no-buy. Like, you're still going to be waiting 300 days. That can be a really tough mental place to be in, to be like, shit, I have 300 days to go. What the hell? That is when I think it's that perspective that can lead people to be like, screw it, I don't care, I'm going to break my no buy just this once, or like, I'm only a month in, or I'm only 2 months in, I don't care. When you have that shorter time span, it's all just condensed. And once you're done, you can do some reflecting and some learning, and then make some choices for there. Maybe after your first 30 days, then you do some habit change in that next period of time. You do some reflection, you do some you try some things out. A short-term no buy is also really excellent to have a specific focus. Like if you want to focus on an area like contentment where you have kind of like a project in mind, going on a no buy for, I would say, 1 month can really help you do that. You can use this at any time, at any point in your journey. This past October, I went on a month-long no buy. I didn't really talk about it all that much. Actually, I don't think I mentioned it at all. And it's a technique that I still use to this day when I want to focus on a project or I want to really focus on contentment, because our contentment kind of waxes and wanes even throughout a year. So I was feeling uninspired with my wardrobe, and like I could use a new piece or two to spruce things up. That's an indication to me that I'm experiencing boredom and flagging contentment. The answer is not new stuff. The answer is to, appreciate my stuff. And so that is exactly what I did. It was a great time. Came out of my no buy for that month, and didn't need more clothes. It was super fun, and I would do it again. I am going to do it again. I'm going to be doing no buy January. I hope you'll join me this January for a 31 day no buy challenge. And you can do this in this kind of 30-day technique if you want to learn about your stuff or experience contentment. You can do this in any area of your life that you're experiencing maybe boredom or flagging contentment with. Now let's talk about who I don't think a no buy is for. People or circumstances that I don't think a no buy is going to benefit. I do just want you to keep in mind as we go through that if you feel like a no buy is right for you, regardless of what I've said here, please still go on it. I would never tell somebody to not go on a no buy when they feel like one is right for them. So let's get into this list. Number 1, you're struggling with mental health or going through a stressful situation. No buy years are challenging. And if I went on one in 2024, I have every faith that I could do it, but I guarantee at some point, just like everybody else out there, there's going to be some kind of struggle. Stuff happens throughout our year. People can pass away, job loss, end of relationships, end of friendships. You have to move. Like there's lots of things, even beyond those, that can add stress to our lives. And if you are already anticipating a stressful year or you're dealing with mental health challenges, this doesn't have to be your year. You may not have the mental bandwidth to deal with your mental health plus other stuff on top of it, and that's okay. When I'm saying a no buy isn't right for you, this isn't a permanent situation. This is just right now. You can always come back to one at a later date. That is an option that is available to you. Stressful moments as well, like, job loss, end of relationships, divorces, things like that, they're stressful all on their own, and similar things apply. You don't need to add the stress of a no buy to that. Most especially if you're somebody who uses shopping as a coping mechanism, if you go on a no buy, you remove that, you now have lots of stress, extra stress than is what is normal in a given year. And now you have removed your coping mechanism also. So that could just be like a super stress platter that you've kind of put yourself in. And it can be a really tough time. This again is a not now but later. This leads me to number 2, if shopping is your coping mechanism. I recently put out a video entirely on coping mechanisms and shopping. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link it in the cards. Personally speaking, I think this would be my number 1 reason to go on a no buy later down the line, is if you are somebody who uses shopping as a coping mechanism. Coping mechanisms are our stress response, or what we do when stress kind of comes up. Now, if you go on a no buy without addressing your coping mechanism, what can happen is that you've now eliminated your coping mechanism and you haven't swapped it with anything else. So now you'd have all of this stress and you have no outlet for the stress. The quickest thing you can do, or the best thing you can do, is to find an alternative. That's going to take time. It's also going to take practice, like making that switch, your brain and your body adjusting to that switch. Doesn't happen overnight. I can attest to that. You may be able to white knuckle your way through a couple weeks, couple months even, but if you are somebody who has this as a coping mechanism, I think eventually that white knuckle sheer like willpower is going to wear out. You also don't need to white knuckle your way through a no-buy. You can address this coping mechanism first. Once you have a handle on it, or once you made some progress on it, then you can go on a no-buy later down the line. Addressing a coping mechanism is going to take some time, some pre-planning and some figuring out, and also may very well require or involve a mental health professional. So, let that help you take time. So why this kind of falls in this category of maybe later is that once you get into this state, like you're in this emotionally vulnerable state, you would go to shopping, our judgment is typically clouded. Like we might not care, truly, or we just might be so fixated on like, I need to shop. This is the outlet, that we don't think about other things. We don't think about our finances. We don't think about our emotions. We don't think about our consequences. And we just need to do this thing. And that can render rules and budgets ineffective. The last reason to opt out of a no-buy is if you're somebody who's prone to shopping spirals. And shopping spirals happen when one purchase kind of fuels this binge or this desire to buy another. So buying one thing leads to another, et cetera, et cetera. And I have an entire video that's called like the number one reason no-buys fail. And in that video, I discuss quitting cold turkey. Let's talk about smoking for an example. Some people have success quitting cold turkey with smoking, but this is not the majority of smokers. Most people do not experience success quitting cold turkey, and they need that kind of slower reduction in their nicotine in order to kind of phase it out. But not just that, there's a lot of like rituals with smoking, and also, habits that are involved with smoking, but also like how we think about things and mindsets and other things that are involved. And I think there are similar things that can be at play with shopping. You might have your values, beliefs, or like rituals and habits that are involved with smoking that you might not shopping, that you might not even know are there. And you might do well or better addressing these things slowly. Also, no-buys can be like a crash diet, because with the crash diet, people can usually hang in there for a couple of days, weeks if you were absolutely lucky, but eventually comes the slip and the binge, and the same thing can happen with shopping. And that binge would be the shopping spiral, or could be the shopping spiral. You've built your shopping habits over years, if not decades, and to expect us to dismantle them over the course of a couple of weeks or a couple of months, I think is a little unrealistic. And undoing these things, figuring them out and undoing them is going to take some time. And it's very difficult to just stop all of a sudden, all at once. Slow measure change is usually what people experience the most success with. And when it comes to the shopping spiral, one of the reasons why I think this also happens is this black and white view of failure. As in, you buy one thing or you have one slip up, you failed. You've broken your no-buy, and then I think that can come the screw it attitude, or the I've already broken it, might as well just buy all those other things that I've wanted to. This happens all the time. This can also happen because of rigid rules, kind of like I was saying earlier. You don't have that experience with constraint, with saying no, with not shopping, and so you can chafe against those restraints or those restrictions, which can lead to a shopping spiral. This idea of failure, I think there's going to be some mindset work that is involved there. And also with picking yourself back up. Like if you do experience a shopping spiral, are you able to pick yourself up and keep going? That's a really hard ask if you are not familiar or you don't have experience doing that. It's not impossible by any means, but it's a hard ask. And so I think you would want to maybe do some mindset work or maybe do some preparation, like I was mentioning earlier about, okay, what happens when I slip up? What's going to be the procedure? Do you think that you'd be able to keep going on your no-buy if you've had a major slip up? Would you believe that that's failure? Would you believe that you didn't succeed? Would you believe that you're insert any kind of negative ways you think about yourself? Would that lead you to keep shopping? Do you think that you could pick yourself up in a couple of days or weeks? This is a struggle that I think most people in a no-buy are faced with. Some people are able to pick themselves back up, some people aren't. So I think you need to have a really honest conversation with yourself as to which kind of scenario you're in. And if you think that you would be capable even eventually of picking yourself back up, because I don't say this to shame anybody. If you're somebody who is like, you know what, I don't think I could pick myself back up, I don't think I could keep going if I had that big slip up, that is hugely honest. The slow measured change, I think you would have more success with because there is less opportunity for the slip up. Slip ups can still happen, so I think that is something that you can face, but they're less likely to happen with the slow measured change. Also, I think a question to ask yourself, regardless of which approach you take, would be to kind of, I don't know, get into your own mind a little bit, to think about how you measure like your self-worth on these shopping projects. Like if you go a no-buy, is your self-worth, is your idea of success, do those things hinge on you not buying anything? So if you fail, do you inherently become a failure because you bought something? And so how we think about failure and success kind of generally in our lives, I think we're just going to take that and apply it to the no-buy context. All right, that's it for me today. I hope this video was helpful and hope it gave you something to consider. I would love it if you would subscribe to catch more content like this, and No-Buy January is coming up. So if you want to stick around for that, I would love to have you. I also have the link to my website, which there's a blog and a newsletter and buy me a coffee. They're all in the description. Thanks for watching and hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.